options. Now if you click on C and C++, it will only show you the necessary files that you might need for your development purposes. So we are actually interested in the in creating a source file. For the moment, you can choose an empty file, or even you can choose an header. You can choose a header file. We will be discussing about what a header file is and what's the basic difference between both of those source and the header file. So let's create a source file. It might be telling you that this is a C or C++. So it means it supports both of those files. It will support a C program, and if you want, you can also make it, you can instruct it to use the support for C++. But let's see what we can do with this. So let's go for C++. It might even show you something like this, or it might even show you something like this. So yeah, let's go for something called C+ source file. Let's click on OK, and you'll be presented with all this words and sentences. We don't need this, so you can click on skip this page next time and click next. So in here you are presented with the options. As I've already told you, it's going to tell you whether you want to use a file for creating a program on C, or whether you want to create a program on C++. So we are interested only on C, so let's choose C and click next. Now the first thing that we need to do is to tell our ID where to store all this, where to store the file that we are going to create. So it means you'll need to define a file path. So I've created a file path in my own directory, in my own disk, F disk, inside C, and I've called it samples. You can call it as you wish. You can even use your own name, you can use your number, it's up to you. So the first program that we're going to create, let's name it as something like print name. Okay, so basically you'll find a C program having the extension of .c. So you don't need to go for adding .c, because at the bottom you'll find something called save as type. Now the save as type is for applying that extension for you. Now the IDE will automatically provide the extension for you, and with that extension the IDE will be able to understand what sort of file is that. When it understands what sort of file is that, it will be able to compile your code into a program which the machine will understand in terms. So I'm going to explain that in details later on, but first let us create that. So let's call this print name and let's save this. Now we don't need to choose this. Let's click on finish. Now we have our page. So if you open up the folder where you have saved it, you'll find a file called printname.c. So this printname.c, if you notice carefully, the last part, or the extension part is the letter that's appearing after the dot. Now anything that's appearing after the dot is for the computer, or for the compiler. It's going to tell the compiler what sort of programming language is it using, and the preceding part before that comes before the dot is the name that you provide. Now because we're interested in a C program, our compiler has created a file with the extension of C .c that's going to compile as a C program, not a C++ program. If it was a C++ program, you would have seen something like .cpp. So CPP essentially means C++, because we're not going to create that C++, we're going to create a C program, so it has used an extension of .c. After we create and after we build and execute our program, you'll find several other files on this directory. So let's create this program first. In this program, we're going to print out our name. So the first line of code is an include file. So write this include file, and the next thing is we need to create a function, and then we need to provide another function that will do the job for us, that will print out our name. So the let me write my name. Okay. Now there are several parts in this program. The first one is to include a library file or a header file or an include file. The second part is to call in a main function. So this main function is essential in your C program. The main, when the compiler or when you tell your computer to run this program, it will always look for this main function, and if it finds a main function, it will enter this block. Now the starting of the block is defined using the opening curly brace, and the end of the block is defined using the ending curly brace. Now inside this entire block, it is actually defining the action for this program. Now the action for this program is that it will go behind the scenes, and it will tell the computer to print out the name, this sentence on our screen or on our console. So the next step is to build this program and to execute this program. Now there are two ways you can do that. Either you can go to build, you can click on build, or you have that option on the status bar. I guess this is called the status bar. Now there are lots of things in here which we don't need. We don't even need this workspace on our left hand side, so let's remove this. Go to view and remove this manager, and we also don't need the status bar. Yep, so it's a lot cleaner right now. It used to be a lot clumsier, so let's remove these parts. Okay. Let's rearrange our workspace so that we have more space to write our codes. Now in here, when the computer or the compiler behind the scenes, now the compiler, let me first explain briefly what the compiler is doing. The compiler will take your code that you have written in here. It will now the computer is essentially a machine that will only understand binary digits, which are known as machine language. Now a C program is something that we humans can understand. A machine language constitutes of the alphabets of 0 and 1. So we as human beings won't understand what those strings or huge lengths of zeros and ones mean. So to make our computer understand what we are trying to do or what we're trying to mean through our program, we need to translate this entire code from a C program to a machine language, to a C programming language to a machine